One question that I get a lot, probably more than any other one, is can anyone learn to sing? Now, I've addressed this. The short answer is yes, but I've addressed this in videos in the past. You can click on any of the links in the description box below and you can review those. But lately, the question I've been getting is, how did you learn to sing, Eric? Like, did you learn everything in college? Did you go to college for this? Did you have voice teachers before? When did you start? How long did it take you to get good? Who were these people who taught you these things? So this series, How I Learned to Sing, is all about how I learned to sing. Along the way, I'll be sharing tips, like what I learned from each experience, and I hope you enjoy it. So this is like a story time vocal video. I feel like a real YouTuber now. So anyway, let's get to it. One thing that's funny is that I never wanted voice lessons. I did not want voice lessons. The way I saw it, voice lessons were for classical singers or for musical theater singers. So in my mind, that's what I thought. But I wanted like, I wanted like ugly sounds. And around the time I was 14, I had fallen all the way in love with singing. Now, I was not good at it in any capacity, but I really wanted to learn. And don't ask me why or how, but I always had this idea that I could figure it out. I don't know where that came from because no one else around me held that belief, but I believed I could figure it out and I could learn. I didn't want voice lessons, but I was not above seeking help. And so my choir directors at the church that I was at, they would offer me advice because one problem that I had was at the end of every choir rehearsal, at the end of every Sunday service, I would be hoarse. So I would lose my voice at the end of every rehearsal, at the end of every service. And I had one choir director who told me, don't worry about it. Your voice will heal back stronger. Like, push your voice to the limit and your voice will heal back. And the vocal coach is in the background like, what the hell? Yeah, I didn't have any point of reference for how wrong this was. In my 14-year-old mind, these are adults who are professionals, so they must know. And I was all about being a good student and not really questioning authority at the time. And so it seemed smart. And so I would sing myself hoarse every day. I would just belt things out to the top of my lungs. And eventually I developed nodules on my vocal folds. So, and the thing is, at the time, believe it or not, I had no concept of head voice or mixed voice or any of this stuff. So I'm just like, I'm just screaming everything out. And I know people laugh when I do that demonstration, but it sounded like someone was murdering me or something like that. But that's what I would do. I thought that was the way to build strength in the voice. But one day I woke up and I couldn't speak clearly anymore. And my parents thought that, is it sinus and allergy? I was like, no, it's not. I don't have any other symptoms. This is just my voice. And to make a long story short, and if ever you want me to go into details on any of this extra stuff, just comment, but I'm going to skip through some fluff. Basically, I had the early formation of nodules that were really affecting my voice dramatically because I already kind of sucked at singing. So, and my doctor told me you can either do voice lessons or steroids or surgery. And I think he was trying to scare me a little bit. And I chose reluctantly voice lessons. So at 14 years old, I began working with my first voice teacher named David. He was great and he was a true master and he helped me out a lot. And so I'm going to explain to you the ways in which he helped me. So for one, believe it or not, when I first went to David, I had no head voice. So, well, of course, I had the potential for it like any other human being, but I had no concept of how to access it, which might be hard to believe since I use it so much.
My feelings have grown, and all of me knows
Whatever, I don't know.
hungry. Turn this food up, I was hungry. Turn this food up. So the Bible says, and it still is new.
Perhaps one of the biggest reasons why I flaunted it so much is because it was the hardest thing for me to learn. So it's kind of a trophy element of my voice. But he was the first person to make me aware that falsetto and head voice were two distinct things. Growing up in the Southern Baptist Church in New Orleans, everything was chest voice. Everything was, yeah. You screamed it out, and it was encouraged. It was encouraged. So I would just squeeze my larynx with all my might. I would just squeeze my throat. I had no idea that I was doing damage because I was literally told that this is how you get stronger. So I would just scream, 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 scream. And so I didn't know that you can blend this voice up into this voice. And David was the first person to teach me that. Now, this is the funny thing. I was a crappy student. And I've had students like this too. And what I mean is, I wasn't disrespectful. Definitely not. I've been raised properly in that respect. I listened and I nodded and I smiled, but he told me a lot of things that I didn't want to hear. So one thing I learned from him, and I'll put this across the screen, is that voice lessons, healthy vocal training can be counterintuitive. So the way it seems like something should work is not actually the way that it works. So to give you an example, I wanted more power. But he had me pulling back and singing softly. Singing softly, I could not sing softly. So I would get more like, no, no, no. I had no sense of how to get focus with singing softly. So it was the worst in the beginning. And so here I am in this voice lesson for like half an hour. I'm doing, no. And he's like, yeah, that's what you do. I was getting frustrated. And sometimes I would just, no. And I was like, why can't I just do that? Well, for one, it was ugly and strained. And my body was really resisting me. So this is a really gold star point that I want to leave you with in this video. I didn't practice for like weeks. I didn't practice any of the exercises he gave me. I didn't sing as hard. So my voice did recover, and I was still pretty young. But I didn't really practice his techniques. I did them in my lessons with David. He was really nice. He didn't press me too much. I think he could tell that I wasn't really practicing. But I just didn't understand how singing softly, no, no. I didn't get what good was that gonna do me? Like, I had lost my voice. I wanted my clarity back and I wanted my power back. The idea that singing softly was the key to growing my range just seemed ridiculous to me. But at this time, I also sang with the group. What did we call ourselves? I don't even know if we had a real official name, but we'd do talent shows and stuff. And so my friend Daryl, shout out to Daryl if you're watching, he asked me one day, like, how are the voice lessons going? And I was like, okay, I guess my nodules are gone, but I'm not enjoying these lessons, and I have these exercises, and they're stupid. And Daryl was like, can I try them if they're so stupid? And I was like, sure, waste your time if you want. And I gave him the cassette tape. Maybe a week or two later, we had a rehearsal. And Daryl is like, no, doing all these head voicey things. We never could, the stuff that Boyz II Men and even Justin Timberlake or whatever were doing. And I was like, what the hell? He could never do that either. And so remember, I had no head voice ability at this time. And I really admired singers, especially R&B singers and pop singers like Mariah Carey, Boyz II Men, Brian McKnight, even Usher, people who could do that. I didn't understand how they did it. And now here my friend, a regular guy like me, regular as in not a famous recording artist, was able to make these sounds. And he was like, I did the exercises. And I was like, they work? They work? The exercises work? And I was like, how much did you do them? He's like, well, I did them every day. And little by little, I could feel the connection from my head voice to my chest voice. And it was a big revelation. It really was the start of my career as a student. And it set the foundation for my future career as a vocal coach. The idea that there was something you could do, that there was it became real to me in that moment. The idea that you could do something and make your voice better. Because prior to that, I didn't really take it all too seriously. And I had witnessed no success stories. I hadn't seen anyone else grow in this way. At the time, I believed that my favorite singers had no vocal training. I now know how untrue that is. But at the time, I thought it was all natural. And so, but here Daryl is doing all these little riffs and head voice and stuff. And I'm being, funny about it. He probably sounded better than that. But it was a powerful lesson that daily vocal exercise yielded results. And I became obsessive about daily vocalization Like until this day, I'm still obsessed because I know how powerful it can be. And so after that, I began putting much more work into daily practice, and over the following 3 months, my voice truly transformed. So, quick recap: important lessons I learned from that first voice lesson. Pulling back pulling back in terms of volume and pressure can be a way to access the passaggio, that passageway, that connection from chest voice up into head voice. And sometimes pushing actually will shorten and restrict your range over time instead of growing it. But if you start off softly, you can, whoops, I'm hitting the mic, you can then go back and add on weight gradually more and more as you grow in skill and as you grow in strength. Lesson number 2, exercises work, good exercises work, and that daily vocal exercise is a thing. Even then, I still didn't fully understand the physiological aspect so much, and in a future video I'll tell you who taught me that and where I started to be introduced to the world of voice science. At this point, I was still kind of just learning from experience, and from everything was just my sensory experience of like, oh, I'm doing these exercises and my voice is getting clearer, my voice is getting stronger. And everybody at church noticed because I was able to, for the first time ever, I was able to sing softly. I remember I sang a song that I was able to sing out and then pull it back and still float it. And that was new for me, and I loved it. So those are lessons that I take with me to this day. And I still, I was just talking to a coach recently about how powerful pianissimo singing is and how it could be a wonderful tool for building range and building vocal freedom, and how daily vocal exercise is so important because we now understand things about the thyroid muscle and cricothyroid muscle and all the different muscles of the vocal folds and the diaphragm, But that was my start, and hopefully some of this stuff has been informative in a way and intriguing. If you have more specific questions, I was afraid to ramble forever with this because there are definitely things I kind of skipped over. But if you want to know more, leave questions in the comment section. I'm going to do a few more videos of like other teachers and other mentors I've worked with and things, nuggets of truth they dropped on me, what I learned in college. So yeah, hit me up. Follow me on Instagram if you want to know more about me as a person. I'm on Instagram at Eric Arsenault. If you just want the vocal stuff, which is totally fine, if you don't want to see my selfies and stuff, go to A Approach. We're on Instagram, regular vocal tips and videos from not only me, but from my associate instructors. And of course, you can go to the website, aapproach.com, if you want to book a lesson with me from anywhere in the world through Skype or FaceTime. You can book everything, all the information's there. And I think that's it. So until next time, peace. That was good, Kenny, but more pharyngeal space, like lift the soft palate. And Kenny's like, oh, and he's like, yes, 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 you know. And then he's like, John, like now you more support, and they're making these tones, and I am freaking out because he's doing like these mini voice lessons like on the spot. And so he gets to me, and I'm like, nah, and I'm cracking. And now